Labels. Are you using them in Todoist? Well, in this week's episode, I'm going to show you how to get the most out of labels in Todoist. Hello and welcome to another episode of Working with Todoist. My name is Pullein, and in this week's episode it's all about labels. Now let me just give you a quick brief overview of what we use labels for, or what they are supposed to be used for. Essentially, labels comes from the original Getting Things Done book, and in the book they were called context. Context are people, places, or tools, or things that you need in order to do the task. Now, the thing is, back in 2001, if you wanted to write an email, unless you had a BlackBerry, you had to use a computer. If you wanted to make a telephone call, unless you had a phone with you, you had to use a phone. You couldn't use your computer. And so things have changed quite a lot over the last 18 years or so. Now I can make calls from my computer. I can reply and send emails from my phone. So the whole technology field has changed quite a lot since the original Getting Things Done book was created. So for me personally, I've always had great difficulty with labels. I find they're not particularly useful because pretty much I can do everything I want to do from the back of a taxi, in a bus, on a train. I can do pretty much everything that I used to have to use specialized tools for, and maybe you find the same. But with that has brought a few additional ideas. We can actually add context by time, for example. So we can add a label 5 minutes, 15 minutes, or 30 minutes. We can do the Eisenhower matrix, quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4. Or we can stick to the original idea of people, places, or tools and use it in the original way. Actually, which is some of the ways that I do use it. So what I've done is I put together a few different ideas in this video to show you how you might want to use it. But the thing I would really like to stress is, if you don't find labels useful, then don't use them. You don't have to use them. You can still work from project view. You can still do the 2+8 prioritization system, and C.O.D is not affected by labels either. So it's entirely up to you. But labels can be useful in different situations, and for some of you, you may find it very useful. Okay, so let's go into Todoist in a minute though. Before I do that, I would just like to say, if you do like this episode, if you do get some value from this, please hit that like button below. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, I would be ever so grateful if you would. Okay, let's go straight into Todoist now, and I will show you everything I know about labels. Okay, so here we are in my demo account this week, and this is my today view. And what we've got is just a number of tasks in my today view for today, and we've got 3 tasks with labels and 1 task without. So first up, now the quickest way, and a lot of people don't actually realize this, but the quickest way to get to a label, particularly from one that you've got in the middle like here, is, for example, just tap on the actual label. So I've got one for Tom here, which is a people label. So we tap that, and that's going to take me directly to Tom's label. So if I know that I'm checking in with Tom today, I can just hit that label within the task, and it's going to give me all the things that I need to speak to or see Tom about. So that's really quick. That's actually the quickest way to get to a label. But a really good way of seeing this is this one that I've got down here, which is buy medicine for Frodo. Now, the reason for why this is why you can actually click on this label is because, let's say buying medicine for Frodo means I have to go out into town to buy the medicine, and that thinks, well, while I'm there, what else can I buy? So I'm just going to click on the errands, and I'm going to see, oh look, I've got buy new harness and lead for Frodo, which I can also get at the pet store which is near the vet, so I can actually do both of those today. So what I can do now is I can hit this one, and I can actually hit the schedule and hit today. That's going to come up on my list today. So when I'm doing my planning, I will see that, and it will just really fit into my whole schedule, which is another reason why you can use labels to help group the tasks together, which is in a video which I talked about Tony Robbins chunking about 2 weeks ago. You see how all this can be actually brought together. So now that this errands has come together, now there is something else that you can do, and a lot of people don't realize this, because if you do want to use labels, and as I said in the introduction, labels really these days can be a bit optional. What you can do is type into the quick find no label. So if you just type in no label, hit return, that's going to bring up all the tasks that you have no label on. As you can see, I've actually got a lot of tasks in there, but there is a lot of tasks that I've archived, so it does bring up your archived tasks as well. It won't bring up your deleted tasks, but archived tasks, it will come up. So let's just go down here. I've got one here within a project that I've called 3 Peaks Climbing. So again, I can click on that and it's going to take me to this project itself. By the way, that's a really quick way. So we just go back there. I'm going to go back into my today view. We're going to go back to no label, and you can see that this is another thing. It's one of those things that I always forget to tell people about, is if you want to get to a project. So I've got 3 items here with no labels at all, and it's all within one project. So that would suggest to me that I've recently created the project and haven't thought about the labels. So I'm going to click on the project there, and that's going to take me directly to the project window. So within this project, I can say call Jasper about climbing ropes. Now I have a tag called @communications. So I'm going to hit @communications. I'm going to add that one in. So communications is coming with check the climbing gear in working order. My climbing gear is at home, so let's put my home, that's there. And also I've got one here which is at home, because I would do that at home too. Now alternatively, if I wanted to, I think, well, these two are the same labels. I can just hit the the shift key and select those 2 items, and I can actually go up here and I can add a label from there, or I can remove the label. It's entirely up to me. So remember, there is a quick way of doing this as well, using the shift click function. So we'll go back to the no label. So, and if you want to, you can actually create this as a filter if you wish, no label, just to save yourself time, but it's very rare that I go into this sort of thing. So I've got one here for exercise, which I can add for home, review project, and water plants, which is actually today. So water plants, that's coming up as every 3 days. Well, that's going to be at home. And if we're going to use the time function, so we can do also at and then 3 at and 5, because I know that's a 5-minute task. So I hit that, boom, save. So if we go into my labels now, I can show you what I've got here. So I've got communication, writing. So the communications and writing are what I would describe as functional labels. I've got office and home, which is obviously place. Online, again, would be functional. Morning routine, evening routines, that one is just to help filter things out. Now, to be fair, I don't use labels very well. As I said in the introduction, I've never really found labels particularly useful for me. But there are various ways that you can do this. So various ways you can set labels up if you want to use them. So I've got a load of people labels here. So if you work within a team of people, then it can be really useful to actually have a label for the people you work closely with. Now, again, you're going to be very careful here, because if you work with a team of 20 people, having 20 labels for those people, that might be a little bit too much. But if you work closely with just a small group of people, then perhaps having a label for each of those might be useful. Of course, having a label for your partner is, I found, also very, very useful. You got things like read review, which is another one that you can do. So if you've got an article that you will need to read, there's no time sensitivity to it, then you can just add a read review label to it. And then we get into the time and the Eisenhower matrix. Now the time ones can be very useful, particularly if you find yourself having to sit in a car park somewhere, or you regularly get like pockets of time to do stuff, then yeah, having the labels like for time, like 5 minutes, 15 minutes and 30 minutes. Now, I should point out that the 30 minutes label is the label that you use for 30 minutes plus. Because if you suddenly found yourself having a free afternoon or a free morning, that's a label that you can go into. But in my experience and working with various people with productivity and time management, I find that the most common label that people use is the 5-minute label, because then that's something you can get straight into. So there are various things that you can actually do within the labels functionality. Now, of course, if you have a label that you're using all the time, you can actually pin labels. So I can add to favorites, so you can actually pin the label by just clicking on the 3 dots to the side of it, add to favorites, and that will then pin up at the top of your up here. So I've got objectives, today's focus, next actions, golden 10. So I've got those there, but you can actually pin labels there. Now keep in mind, if you're using filters as labels and you're using labels, labels will always come above filters, projects will always come above labels. It comes up in the order of this angle down here. So you've got projects, labels, filters. So in your pinned favorites, it will come up project, label, filter, order. So there's just a few things that you can do with labels. Incidentally, I should point out that one of the fastest ways to get to a label, if you know what the label is if I type errands here, it's going to come up and bring up the label. I don't even have to type the ampersand or the @ key. I can just bring up labels there. If I'm suddenly, Jasmine walks past now, I can just type in Jasmine. Sure enough, the label's there. So I'll come up and then Jasmine's label will come up straight away. So I found the quick find is actually the fastest way to get into a label, particularly if you know it. So if I'm thinking, okay, I need to do some communication stuff, bang, and that's all going to come in. So you just communications, you actually have to click on it, and there you go, it comes in. So you can actually move roundabout. You don't actually have to click on labels, go into labels. The quick find is one of the fastest ways to get into I don't know if I've got work as a project, but I don't have work as a label. And I could type in, as we said, I know we've got Tom, so I can type in Tom, and it's going to bring up the Tom label. So there you go. That's all the various things that you can do with labels. Before I finish, though, there is one more, because this is actually related to last week. So I've got one here, home. There's 7 items in here, and there's a few with dates. If I hit the S key, nothing happens, because it doesn't actually organize in the same way that the project view works. And again, if I hit the P key, nothing's going to happen, although these are automatically moved to the top. So it's just another one of those things that I wanted to point out. I didn't mention it in last week's episode. Label view, again, is not something that you can actually use the S key or the P key within, and if you find there's no grab handles when you're in the label, as you can see here, there's no grab handles. So this organizes by priority, because you can see there's a date here and a time, and it's not going up. So labels will only organize by project view. And so if I take the flag off this one, and it drops down. So it's actually, when you look at this, it's actually organizing it by priority first and then by project view. I should point that one out for you. But for those of you who were trying to play around with the label view last week, then that isn't quite as possible. You can't organize it by do. And that's something I wish Todoist would change, so that we can actually manually or personally organize the labels, because a lot of people who do want to work from labels do want to see things by date order or by priority. Anyway, it just automatically does by priority and then by project view. Okay, thank you very much for watching this episode. It just remains for me now to wish you all a very, very productive week. Thank you very much for watching this video. Now, have I got something special to tell you about? The Time and Life Mastery version 3 course has launched. Now, this course is transformative. It will transform your life. If you find that your life is drifting from one day to the next, and that you feel that you're not actually achieving your goals, then this course is going to show you how to change that. It's going to show you how to identify what is truly important to you. It's going to show you how to find what it is you want out of life, and then show you the steps that you need to take in order to get there. This course is amazing. The feedback I've got from versions 1 and version 2 have just been tremendous. It has helped so many people, and I want this opportunity to tell you that it can do the same for you. I hope you will take a look at the course, have a go, take the course, and start transforming your life today. This course will do that for you. take a look, get yourself enrolled, and hopefully I'll see you in the course.